Hi, I'm Kate with For the Love, and today we're going to talk about present, past, and future tense action verbs in our Learning to Write program. I'm going to click on the topic in our table of contents. The first page it takes me to is a list of examples of nouns in the past, present, and future tense. This is a helpful teacher resource as you are building your anchor charts or going over examples with your students. Here I have past tense verbs with special endings. So notice if a verb ends in E, we only add D, we don't add ED to make it past tense. If the verb ends in a consonant and then Y, we change the Y to I and add ED. If a verb ends in vowel Y, we just add ED to the end. If a verb ends in a short vowel plus one consonant, we're going to have to double the consonant and add ed. This is not the case if there is more than one consonant after the short vowel or if the vowel is not short. Next, we have those irregular past tense verbs. Those are ones that don't follow any predictable rule and we just need to learn them. And there are a lot of them. Okay, here's our first student page. We are going to start with past tense verbs, and these are past tense verbs where we just add ed. It says, a verb's tense tells us when an action happened. We have been using present tense verbs. That's in the action verbs we learned earlier in the program. The action in present tense verbs happens right now. The action in past tense verbs happened in the past. We add ed to the end of most verbs to make them past tense verbs. So here students are given present tense verbs and they're going to need to add ed to turn them into past tense verbs. Now you can print this out for your students or you can project it and they can copy it into their writer's notebook. Here's the answer key for that. This is not technically a writing lesson, but I thought it was important to include here the different sounds of ed because we use what we hear in order to spell, and spelling is an important part of writing. So you may have students who aren't realizing that ed is coming at the end of past tense verbs because they don't hear the ed sound. They might hear d or t. And so we want to pause and take a moment and talk about the three different ways ed can sound when it's at the end of a past tense verb. This is a student page. You can give it to them or they can make the chart in their writer's notebook and you can brainstorm together. Here is an answer key. Of course, this isn't all of them, but this is a good start. Now we have some sentence practice. Students are going to write sentences with past tense verbs, and I have a word bank for them that has articles, nouns, and past tense verbs. If they choose to use a singular noun, they're going to need an article. If they have a plural noun, they can use the article the, but they don't have to. Notice that I've given all of the nouns as singular nouns. Students should know by now that they can add an S and turn the noun plural, and then that will change their sentence. I also have the 4 mechanics checklist for them to make sure that they are writing grammatically correct, complete sentences. We are going to follow the same routine for each of the special spellings of past tense verbs. So on this page, students are just adding D to verbs that end with E. So like becomes liked, close becomes closed, as you see. Again, you can print this out for students or they can copy it into their writer's notebooks. Here are the past tense verbs. And then we have our spelling or our sentence practice, the mechanics checklist, the word bank, so that students can get writing sentences as quickly as possible. Follow this up with another spelling pattern, the consonant Y, change Y to I and add ED. There's the answer key, and they're writing sentences again. And then we have a short vowel followed by a single consonant. We're going to double the consonant and add ED. And then they're going to write sentences with them. And now we get to our irregular past tense verbs. Remember, these are verbs that don't have a pattern students can learn. We just need to memorize them through repeated practice. I tried to pick ones that are very common so that students will get more practice using them and that they will be more familiar with. And then here is their sentence practice. Future tense verbs are the easiest tense of verb because all we do is add will before the present tense version of the verb. A verb's tense tells us when an action happened. Actions that haven't happened yet are written with future tense verbs. All future tense verbs begin with the word will followed by the present tense verb. There are no irregular future tense verbs, which is very helpful after all the work we did with past tense verbs. So students are given the present tense verb. They add will to the beginning of it to make the future tense verb. And now we do our sentence practice. Students are given the mechanics checklist and the word bank, and they should write about 4 sentences. Of course, you can differentiate within your own classroom to determine how many sentences students need to write. Here I have some sample sentences. These are actually included in every topic that we teach so that when you are creating your anchor chart or you are giving examples to your students, you have 20 sentences, I think, right in front of you for giving examples, because we all know that that can be challenging in the moment to think of a good example. These are regular past tense verbs. Then we have the different special spellings of past tense verbs. And then we have the irregular past tense verbs and future tense verbs. We have already worked with the present tense verbs, so there is not a specific lesson on it. You can always go back to the action verbs activity if your students need more practice. And that's it for verb tenses.